On this episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast, we continue our segment on local bands. We talk about the melodic hardcore band out of Salt Lake City, Absolved, and we talk about the pop punk band out of Philly, Goalkeeper. You should definitely check these guys out. Great bands. Thanks for jumping on. Let's open this pit up.
Somebody hit somebody!
Welcome to this episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast with me, Trevor, and we have Kyle here today. And yeah, man, how's the weekend?
It was good. We are finally kicking the sickness that is somehow circulating in my house. So,
Dude, you passed it to me electronically, man. Like I have been down for the count for the last 2 days. It's been rough here.
yeah.
So I'm finally feeling better though.
Well, I'm glad it only lasted a couple of days because I was a week and a day feeling like garbage. But
yeah, mine was like really bad for 24 hours. I was like body aches, wanted to just sleep kind of thing, but I couldn't sleep. So yesterday sucked, but today I'm feeling okay.
Yeah. See, mine was like a whole week, but it wasn't bad. Like it sucked. Like I felt sick and I was tired, but I could still like get up and do things, which is kind of more frustrating, right? Like I almost would rather it be really bad for 24 hours or 2 days and then get over it than like a whole week dragging on of just feeling yucky, you know?
Yeah. No, I feel you for that for sure.
My mom's sick and she said she went to the doctor and this like cough that she has, the doctor's like, yeah, there's something going around and it's taken people like 4 to 6 months to get rid of this cough. I'm like, go like long-term pneumonia or something. Freak, dude.
It's bad. And it's really affecting like a little bit older generation too. Like my parents have it. My dad has had a cough since end of October, I think is when it started. And then
Sucks.
I've got a neighbor, dude, who they've said it's long-term pneumonia and they've done everything. But get this, the last medicine they put him on, they said, are you an active person? Like, do you go to the gym and stuff? He's like, yeah, I try to keep up and do things. They said, you're not doing that for 6 months. He's like, okay. They said, this medicine, the most common like major issue with it is it weakens your tendons and we get ruptured Achilles because of this medicine we're going to put you on.
Jeez.
And it's something to like help his like lungs and stuff. But I had never heard of like an antibiotic that can rupture your Achilles.
And your Achilles.
Yeah.
You know, so okay, like it's like, I don't know that I've necessarily heard that, but it's kind of like awakening a memory of, I was on, what was this? I think it was last year, like a pretty serious antibiotic for something.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, if you get diarrhea from this antibiotic, just go straight to the hospital.
Because like
it could mean that like your intestines are like ripping apart inside.
Oh my gosh.
So seriously, like on the bottle in like big bold letters, it was like, if you have diarrhea, go straight to the hospital.
Yeah.
So, and as somebody with IBS, I was like, well, I don't know what
to do. I'm living in the hospital.
I guess.
But yeah, no, they basically told him, they're like, this is the last course of action. They put him on like 3 other antibiotics prior to this
like
one.
AIDS medication or something. Like,
yeah, basically, right? But no, this is the one where it's like nothing else has worked. We're just going to like try to restart your system essentially.
That's wild, man.
But he told me he started taking it and then he was coaching his son's basketball team and he's just like in first grade or whatever. So they're walking back and forth on a little court. And he's like, I lightly jogged and the back of my legs hurt afterwards. He's like, it was the weirdest thing. So if anyone knows what that is, like, let us know. But
yeah, that's freaking wild. So speaking of things that are wild though, did you see in the news that airplane that was flying to like Oregon or something, Washington from California, and the side panel on the airplane ripped off mid-flight?
No.
Yeah, it wasn't the door or anything. It was like because planes are kind of like the windows are like panels, like the whole side is like a panel that's like just drilled in. Off. It just ripped out. And no one died. Like luckily nobody was sitting on the seat like next to the window or whatever. But yeah, dude, they had to like emergency land because the freaking panel just ripped right off.
Oh my heck. That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, flying
Dude,
sucks enough, but could you imagine that?
like, did you ever watch A Thousand Ways to Die?
No.
Oh my gosh. People die or most crazy random things happen that are just insane. Like,
Yeah.
could you imagine if like you were at a funeral and they were just like, yeah, the panel just came off.
Yeah, he got
He
up
just
to
got
walk to the
sucked down.
he was walking up to go to the bathroom. The panel ripped off and it sucked him out at
he's just
30,000 feet.
he's just gone.
Oh,
R.I.P. But
jeez.
oh my gosh. There was like in the a long time ago, very early on in flight or whatever, there was a similar situation where somehow a hole happened in the side of the airplane and everyone but one girl died and she fell like how high do planes fly?
Well, now it's
20,000
like
feet,
30,000 feet,
30,000
isn't it?
feet.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
so like 20,000 feet she fell and survived. Like that's another thing too. Like imagine like surviving that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
I had read, I don't know if it was an airplane. Some woman recently that I read, I don't know if it's true, fell from somewhere super high. Maybe it was an airplane. I don't know. Lands on the ground, dies on impact, but lands on a like fire ant hill. And the fire ants start biting her, and the shock of that like revived her heart, and she lived.
That sounds like a completely fabricated story.
Maybe, but dude, I don't know.
That's
Shit is
insane.
wild. You never know. You don't know. You weren't there.
No, that's not like it's true, right? But
Yeah,
like, who knows what happened? But that seems a little
I
fishy.
believe
To
it.
be like, yeah, I fell out of an airplane, but the fire ant saved me. So now I keep a fire ant collection in my in my
I believe
room.
everything
So
that I read on the internet, Trevor.
they probably sprayed it with Windex too, just to revive her. So you know. But dude, the other thing, this is scene related. Finally, is it FYA? Is that what it's called?
FYI, yeah, in
Oh
Tampa,
my gosh, dude. It looks so good. It
it
looks
does
so
look good.
sick.
Today they
Like,
had a freaking stacked lineup too.
yeah, they did. Who was the headliner today?
Today it was Tsunami.
Oh, nice.
Let me look.
Because last night was Dying Fetus and then Twitching Tongues. Is that right? Or was Twitching? I don't know. I think
Yeah, no,
Twitching
I
Tongues
think
played
Trapped
yesterday.
Under Ice though headlined yesterday.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. But yeah, it
Where's
was
the?
stacked.
So yeah, Tsunami today. Incendiary, Military Gun, Mind Force, Koyo, Magnitude. Have you heard of Combust?
Yeah.
You should totally check out Combust if you haven't. They're sick. But yeah, yesterday was a pretty good lineup with like Pain of Truth, Trapped Under Ice, Twitching Tongues, but today's lineup was just wild. So
Yeah. No, it
especially
looks
because
so
like
good.
bands like Incendiary and Mind Force, those guys have like full-time jobs and don't ever tour. So any chance you get to see them, I feel like is
Just go.
like a good opportunity, right?
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Did you see the ladder get thrown?
No.
But it was like early on, I think yesterday, or maybe it was at the pre-show. You know how they do something like the Friday before, typically
Yeah.
for a lot of these festivals. I think it was there, and there's a video from the back of the room, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like a full 6 foot ladder gets thrown across the
Like
room,
WWE style.
like WWE style, like coming towards the camera. Like it's pretty funny, but
Dude, when are these like hardcore venues going to figure that crap out? Because that's like, I get that there's like some liability that you can pass because people know what they're getting into if you bust a nose in a pit or something, but getting hit with a ladder,
yeah, like why
that's a
are there
hard one for
ladders out?
insurance. I know, right? That's what I'm saying is like, yeah,
Or at
insurance
least why are
company's not
there
going to,
ladders accessible? Right?
right.
They sure put them in the back or whatever, but
It's
and
crazy.
maybe one of the workers was just like, "Dude, this will be funny. Let's take this out."
It's wild.
It's awesome. So you said you were talking your wife into hitting up Furnace Fest this year. You think you got her
Yeah.
on the
I'm
hook?
like pretty close, I think, to being able to like commit to going. So
Nice, nice. Well, we'll have to see if I can make my way out there. It looks too good to try to pass up.
fly
So
down here and we'll just road trip out and then we'll sleep in the back of my truck.
that's true. That's true. All right. We'll see what we can make happen. But we'll get into it here. So we've done this once before. We did the bands Interpersonal and Pure Bliss previously, and we're going to do a couple other local bands or smaller bands. And I don't know if you just heard that, but my dog just hacked up.
Did your dog just vomit?
Just coughed. But yeah, so we're talking about a couple smaller bands and just helping out some of the scene, right? Like we've talked about this before. The reason why we're doing this is to find new music and to also just share what we love. We used to sit for hours on end searching, finding music. And so this episode specifically is a way for us to do this. So these are bands that we've either known for a short period of time or they're smaller and local that we've loved for a minute and just want to get some additional love for these guys. So you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I can go first. So it's a little bit of a, what do you call it? Like Homer, for sports, like Homer attitude, like home court advantage type thing. Like,
oh yeah,
it's going to be a local Salt Lake City band, but we're going to talk about Absolved. So they're a melodic hardcore band from Salt Lake City. Been around, I think, since 2021. They've got 2 EPs and play a ton of shows in Salt Lake. And honestly, we've talked about it before, that how big of a sucker I am for melodic hardcore. These guys are like genuinely super good.
Oh yeah.
Have you listened to them much?
Oh yeah. No, I've listened to a lot of Absolved. With them being local, they're on a lot of the hardcore bills coming through. They're also on a lot of just the local showcases. Like they played here Friday night, I think it was. Maybe it was Friday night.
Yeah.
And
with the like amateur wrestling.
Yeah,
dude.
Wrestling, a couple other local bands, and it was sick. Like I didn't go to the show, but seeing all the videos, the amateur wrestling was way cool. But then smaller venue, lots of stage diving, and it was a cool looking show. And they're doing a lot of that right now.
Yep. So I actually think I stumbled across these guys on a post on the internet. So I was on Reddit, on the hardcore subreddit, which is freaking a cesspool sometimes, but you can occasionally find like you can occasionally find some like pretty good music on there. And I think there was a post about like melodic hardcore and somebody threw an Absolved. So I started listening to them. One of the first like social media posts that I saw from them when I was looking them up was, it was a live show they were playing, and the vocalist kid was like on stage, like moshing, and he had like headphones on, so you can protect his ears and stuff. Which, just a side note, wear earplugs, guys. Come on, it's 2024. We can wear earplugs. It's okay. But yeah, it was super cool. What?
I don't.
You don't wear them? Wow,
no.
dude. Wow.
I should. My hearing's shot though. Like I have like built-in headphones at this point.
Yeah. Well, tonight is blows. So, but yeah, I always just like, I thought when I first saw that, I was like, man, that's sick. Like the music's dope. I love melodic hardcore. And to see him like with his kid up there, I don't know, is it like a dad who is getting my kid into this music and stuff? It just was super cool to see that. And so, been a big fan of him for a few years now that I, read about him and stuff. But yeah, we can get into like some of the tours and their music and stuff in a second, but do you have any stuff like that? Like, how did you hear about them?
I think I just heard about them through honestly just seeing flyers and stuff of Utah shows. And then as we've been doing this over the last year, they've continually popped up on my things because you'll like go to listen to a local band and it'll be like fans of this all or fans also like this, and Absolved is always on there. If you're listening to a Salt Lake band, Absolved is typically underneath the other Salt Lake bands. So if you're looking at Utah music, like these guys are well ingrained in the hardcore scene. Their vocalist has been around at least as long as we have. I don't know if he's our age, maybe a little bit older, but he's been in several different local bands. Their guitarist was in Cool Your Jets, an old hardcore band out of Salt Lake for a long time. and their bass player did vocals for a band, but their drummer since 2013 has been producing music professionally and produces a ton of the Salt Lake hardcore. So super well ingrained in the local scene here. And I mean, at this point, I think that most people, at least around here, know who they are, and they're starting to get a bigger name for themselves too.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at some of the like tours and stuff they've done. I mean, 90% of it, 99% of it is local Salt Lake City stuff, which, is sick because we're, from Salt Lake City scene. And so like it's cool to see that there's a pretty tight knit group of guys that are playing hardcore in Salt Lake City. Shows are always wild. Everyone seems to know each other. Everyone seems to be friends with each other. That's a really cool thing to see now because it was not like that
Yeah.
back in the day. But like they played Wild West Fest this year with like when Tsunami and Big Boy and those bands showed up. They
Yep.
did do a tour with a band called Mandalore, and they played through like Nevada, California, New Mexico, Arizona, some stuff like that, Colorado. So
Sick.
they've done a little bit of touring, but I mean, most of it's pretty local to Salt Lake, and I mean that's cool. And they've only been around for a few years. I think they've all got like full time jobs and families and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't really know what the like goal is for them as a band, but I mean the music they're putting out is worthy of getting huge, in my opinion, in this
Oh,
scene.
it's top notch. It's top notch for sure, especially if you like that melodic sound. And then Jacob Cook, the vocalist, his vocal style, it hits home so well for me. Like I love that style of vocals. It's a little bit higher, but it's
Yeah.
very clear. You can understand what he's saying the majority of the time, kind of thing. Like that's the kind of stuff that I really, really like.
It is interesting to hear his vocals on an album like this, honestly, but because it's
You
a little
think?
different. Sure. I mean, think of like a lot of the melodic stuff we've got, like Counterparts. He's higher than the guy from Counterparts.
Yep.
Same with the guy from Hundreds. Same with the guy from Misery Signals. So, from like a straight melodic standpoint, it is a little different.
Yeah,
So,
that's fair. That's right. Even on their song "The Helm," where they have the vocalist from Snake Eyes come do a spot for him, which Snake Eyes is another Salt Lake band. The Snake Eyes guy is lower too. So yeah, that's true. So it
yeah,
is something different, but it's not like it's not Knocked Loose. It's not so
yeah,
high. Like
that's a good
I'll
point.
be honest. Like I'm not a huge Knocked Loose fan. Like they've got a couple good songs, and their music is heavy, and a lot of their music is dope. But Brian's vocals are not my favorite.
Right.
And so I think that this is a good bridge between that. It's higher, it sounds really good, it sounds really clean, but it's not like annoying at
Right.
times. You know what I mean?
Dude, I remember the first time I heard the Knock Loose guy's vocals. I was just like, first of all, I was checking my headphones. I was like, are they plugged in or something? Like, is something wrong with the audio output? And then I was like, is he okay? But yeah, he doesn't do it for me. I will say I respect Knock Loose because even though they've blown up like crazy, I don't think they've necessarily sold out.
Not
So
yet.
not yet.
Not yet. Not
Not
yet.
yet.
We'll see.
So
We'll
we
see what the
can,
next
yeah,
album
they've
looks
lasted
like.
pretty
But
long. They've lasted pretty long. Anyways,
yeah,
back to the good local
Absolved.
band, Absolved. The first EP that like I said, they've got two EPs. The first one I heard was Eldar. So
I think
sounds like
so.
a Power Ranger villain.
Isn't that from? Isn't Eldar Star Wars or Lord of the Rings? I don't know.
Is it? I don't know.
I think it's one of those.
Let's look.
Anyways,
Eldar. Well, no, now it's going to bug me because if it's Sundering of the Elves, so it is Lord of the Rings. Good call.
that's what I was gonna say. I thought it was something from one of those.
My Lord of the Rings like trivia knowledge is lacking lately.
Is it?
I should be
We
ashamed.
so I just was with my cousin and uncles on New Year's Day, and my uncle's tradition is to watch all the extended versions of Lord of the Rings throughout the day. And so I watched all three of those while playing Magic the Gathering. So
That's cool.
it's
Did you
pretty
like
dope.
cosplay and stuff too?
I wish, but no.
What up?
Uh, I don't know. Probably not. Just because it's just us. But
Let's get back into Eldar, Lord of the Rings. Just kidding. Absolved album. What did you think about this?
So, I mean, right now, in total, Absolved has 8 songs available for stream, right? They have not put out a bad song.
Correct.
Like, it's all good.
Fact. That's not opinion. It's fact too.
Yes. And if anyone questions that, like, you should be listening to this kind of music in
You
general.
probably have tinnitus too. Wear earplugs.
Exactly. But, or maybe you need tinnitus, one or the other. Like, the highlight of this album for me was Crayola Oblongata. That song is just so good to me. I really enjoy it. Again, all the songs are fantastic, but that's the one that really caught my attention. That's the one that I've gone back to several times, like re-listen to that. Like, I really, really like that song specifically. But I think Breathe New Life was the first single that they put out. And then Reclamation is a solid, solid ender. But Crayola Oblongata, that's the one that got me.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Listening to their albums, I get kind of pissed off that there's only 8 songs,
Right.
because it's like it's all just so good. I feel like Eldar is definitely more melodic sounding.
Sure. Okay.
One thing that I'm very impressed with this band on, and you get it more in the next EP, but you do have a lot of it in this one, is a lot of the like off time breakdown type stuff, where it's like offbeat where they do the
Okay.
breakdown. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I feel like that's really unique and really cool because it kind of keeps you on your toes. Because I understand what melodic hardcore is. A lot of it sounds very similar. But doing things like that definitely helps you stand out. His vocals and then a lot of the like Misery Signal-esque weird timing offbeat type stuff is very cool that they do.
Well, and the one thing I will say about Absolved as well is I do feel like they lean a little bit more into the hardcore. They are melodic. They
Yeah.
are definitely melodic hardcore, but a lot of their tendencies travel back to the hardcore realm. At least it feels like that to me. Like when you listen to some of the other melodic hardcore bands, they will do a little bit more guitar work. They'll maybe slow it down, have a more melodic interlude and stuff like that. I don't feel like you get a ton of that with Absolved. You get a lot more hardcore in
No,
general.
that's true. That's probably why I like them so much because
Yeah,
Counterparts is one of my favorite bands. They get a little metalcore-y for me though,
they
right?
do. Yes.
These guys stick very much more to true to the definition melodic hardcore because even Misery Signals very much metalcore
Yes.
influenced, right? This is straight up true to the definition melodic hardcore, and I agree with that. Great point. Great point. Point for Trevor.
I only get a few of them, so we'll chalk it up.
That album, I don't know if I mentioned it. That album, 2021, I believe.
Yeah.
So, I wonder, with how much of them like having families and jobs and then going through COVID, maybe paused a lot of this stuff. I'm hoping that we can get a lot more music out of them.
Maybe it paused it, or maybe COVID in general is what brought them together. It'll be interesting to chat with them and find out.
Yeah.
Kind of how they got together, why they got together. But I'm really hoping that we get a full length from these guys.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's very well deserved. Their last EP, which we're going to talk about at the close, it was January of 2023 that they put it out. So we're a full year removed from their last EP coming out. So hopefully, mid 2024 or end of the year kind of thing, hopefully we have new music from these guys. And I'd love to see 8 to 10 song album.
For sure. And if they can swing it, a decent tour. Basically, I just want them to come play Dallas so I can see them.
Well, I mean, we might have to do some legwork to get them there, but
it's probably easier for me to fly out to Salt Lake, but
that's true.
We'll see. We will see. So At the Close is their next EP. Like Trevor said, January 2023. 4 songs again. Have 2 features. Their first song is kind of a shorter intro song. Sick though. And then it goes right into the Helm.
Opener. Yep.
It goes right into the Helm, featuring Snake Eyes, which is another Salt Lake City band. But dude, the Helm, easily their best song.
Oh,
so
without
freaking
question.
Good.
So good. The opening drum pattern that they come in with, and just like kind of that feedback.
It's
It oh
the chugging riff at the beginning that
yeah,
it's just so cool. And again, it's that like it's not just like a straight normal tempo timing chugging, like it's a little off and different, and it's just so good.
but
So
that's the
good.
thing, and this is what my last comment was. It's a more hardcore style riff,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and I think that that's why we're like, it's just, you know, that's why we're leaning into it so much. Is
Right.
it's hardcore, you know.
Yeah. The breakdown in this song, dude, is amazing.
Eh,
Absolutely amazing.
for sure. And I'll say the Snake Eyes feature, like I love Jacob's vocals, but him coming in with that little bit lower on the breakdown, it's just like
Right.
so good.
Well, and the riff, like right before the breakdown's like a little southerny too.
Yep.
Like I can totally just picture myself, maybe not now because I'm fat and old, but like back in the day, I could have pictured myself just absolutely going wild during that part. Like,
Yeah.
bull rushing people to open the pit up because you know that it's gonna get nasty in there. You know what I mean?
Yep. I mean,
It's a great song.
anytime there's like a buildup like that, I freaking love those where the crowd kind of settled in a little bit. They're kind of closing in on the pit, but then that hits and you just like open it back up. So
Yeah.
fun.
Well, and you know that people are probably like dogpiling on because they
Yeah.
like scream a little bit right before the breakdown too, and yeah, I mean it's like the quintessential perfect like build up to a hardcore breakdown. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. You know. Then the next song, "The End of All Things," has the feature from "Run Into the Sun," which is another
Another Salt Lake
Salt Lake
band.
City band. I'm familiar with Snake Eyes. I've listened to Snake Eyes a whole bunch, but I haven't listened to "Run Into the Sun." Do you know them much?
I haven't listened to them a ton. I've listened to a couple songs. This is the only song that they have that has clean singing in it. So if you're into that kind of stuff, like there's clean vocals in that song, it's super solid.
Oh, it fits so well. The chorus in that song is
Yes.
just so good.
Yeah, agreed with that for sure.
So, and then the last song, what is it?
Thrill
Thrill
House.
House. It's good. It's all good.
Yeah, without question, right? We
Literally
said
not a single bad thing to say about their music.
there's 8 songs. They're all fantastic. I think the other thing that's super awesome about these guys, there's 8 songs. It's 20 minutes. You have 20 minutes in your day to go listen to all of Absolved.
Yeah.
Like, stop what you're doing, pause us, take 20 minutes and listen to it, and then comment and just tell us how right we were, right?
Right.
So,
100%. 100%. So, like you said, they just played a show. I think they've got a couple other shows maybe lined up. Yeah, they're playing when Broken Vow pulls through Salt Lake. Wait, no, that already happened. That was on the 4th.
that
Or is
was
that the
on the
9th?
4th.
Is it the 4th or 9th? I can't read.
You know what? I actually can't tell.
Right?
So, I'll have to look at that.
This is like just as bad as like the metal handwriting. So
They either just played it or they're about to play it. So I guess we'll find out. My guess is that might be the 9th because they just played the Absolve Johnny Baseball Don't Trust Anyone show with the pro wrestling, and that was on the 5th.
5th.
And the next thing that they posted was this one. So it might be the 9th. But
It might be the 9th. But if you're from Salt Lake, check them out for sure. If you're not from Salt Lake, still try and find a way to check them out, or at least go listen to them because they're. I mean, yeah, there's a few bands that like we catch doing this. Well, I mean, I know we just started, but we've been listening to smaller local bands for a while. There's a few that like have caught my attention as much as they have, so definitely worth a listen.
Totally agreed with that. Totally agreed with that. So,
and who knows? Maybe one day we'll get them on here.
Who knows, right?
Who knows?
Who knows? Awesome. No, super solid. We last week we tried to, I don't know if we tried to do this, but we ended up doing a softer band and a heavier band. Kind of the same format again today, right? So we had Absolved, who's the melodic hardcore. I picked a pop punk band out of Philly called Goalkeeper. I've known about these guys for 4-ish years, give or take, maybe 3 years. But they started in 2016. Like I said, they're a Philly band they're a 3-piece out of Philly. They've got several EPs. The first one was just a 3-song EP called Gut Feeling in 2017. 2018, they put out an EP called Bad Times Don't Last. 2020, they put out Life in Slow Motion. And then 2022, they put out a full length called I Wish I Met You Sooner. So I caught these guys when I was moving in with my in-laws. I was in the process of building a home, and my in-laws are, I got to be respectful, right? So I'm not bumping anything heavy at the time. And so these guys really caught my attention. They are on the softer side of pop punk, even more. I think we describe it as more pop. It's a more punk
It's a
kind of thing.
capital pop in pop punk.
Capital P in the pop, exactly.
Yeah.
And I latched onto them. Like, this is what I would listen to, like getting ready in the morning, or like anytime I had music playing out loud, it was typically Goalkeeper. They don't have like any vulgarity in their lyrics or anything like that. So it's easy for everyone to listen to.
Yeah.
Which is another thing we've talked about, and something that I don't mind language, honestly. Like, I've got actually kind of a sailorish mouth, which I hold back very frequently on this podcast and stuff like that. But when it comes to music and stuff like that, anytime I can put it on in the car with my whole family, I appreciate that. So this is a band that falls into that category for me. But Bad Times Don't Last and Life in Slow Motion were the two EPs that really caught hold for me. So what did you listen to? What were your initial thoughts? And then we can dig into it more.
So this was the first I'd heard of them, right? Because I think you and I both had discovered Absolved, and that was a really easy one for us to pick and talk to. Goalkeeper is a band that I had not heard of and or listened to until you told me to go listen to them and that we were going to talk about them and stuff. So they're a good band. They're a very good band. Me personally, with where I'm at in my musical tastes and stuff, it's not hitting with me. And I want to get that out there. I just want to say that because I only have good things to say about this band. And that's like, kind of hard to do when it's like a sound that you don't resonate with at the moment. But I can't argue that they're not like really good. And we've said that they sound like Blink, right? When you go listen to the albums, you're going to be like, this is very reminiscent of Blink. Although I'm not a huge Blink fan, that is a huge, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like when you say something nice about someone. I don't know. I don't ever do it. So
no, a huge kudos to the band.
Kudos. That's a huge kudos to this band to be like, you sound like Blink, right? Because that means you're good,
Yeah.
So
and let's clarify this a little bit, because the first album you listened to was their full length, right? The 2022 I Wish I Met You Sooner.
Yeah.
So that one, in my opinion, is the most Blink sounding album. I think they leaned heavily into the Blink, and specifically like newer Blink too.
Yeah.
So you start to get, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say what was interesting is like, when I first listened to it, I was like, they're like, it's good. And there's a lot of good things I could pick out of it. And I was like, the first time I listened to it, I was like, but the sound doesn't really resonate with me. Then I listened to it a couple more times. And by the end of it, I was like, okay, like, this is good. Like, this is good. I can listen to this. Like, I really can, So even though I started with what you might say is like not their best, even though it's still good and maybe not their best compared to their EPs, after I listened to it a few times, I was like, no, this is definitely good. I see where they're going. Like, they've got a lot of stuff that sounds nostalgia and a sound that people have gravitated to for a couple decades now.
Yeah.
But they also have a lot of parts that are very unique to them that I think is going to help them be very successful, right?
I think the thing that makes them unique is their vocalist. So he has a lower vocal register than the majority of pop punk. I think that very specifically sets them apart more than a lot of, at least like the 2010 era pop punk bands. There's times, and where I really noticed it is in the last album, I Wish I Met You Sooner. The songs like Notice Me and Truth in the Frame, like those are, Notice Me sounds like a Mark Hoppus remix of a pop punk song. You know what I mean? Like when Mark Hoppus redid December from Neck Deep, when Mark Hoppus redoes a song, he does a lot of the like electronics and things like that. And that's where he basically sounds like Mark Hoppus. There's not very many bands who have that lower register who do it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And
That
so
was
they are unique for that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's one of the first things I noticed because when I heard like the musical intros, I was like, okay, like this is a sound that I'm familiar with, right? This is something I've heard before. And then I heard him sing, and I was like, oh wow, that's actually very different. And
Yeah.
you wouldn't think it would fit as well as it did because your brain is trained to listen to pop punk that is a higher whiny sad boy registry, like
Right.
all the pop punk bands have been since the history of pop punk.
Which why is that? You know what I mean? Like if it fits and it sounds good, like use the lower register,
Yeah, I don't know.
right?
I mean, can you think of another pop punk band that has a lower registry?
Literally the only guy who I can really think of off the top of my head is Mark Hoppus. Mark Hoppus of Blink 182 is a little bit of a lower register.
Yeah,
Like they offset Tom or even Matt Skiba's vocals with Mark, who is a little bit lower. But no, I honestly can't
no,
think of like someone who's that low. You know
right.
what I
And
mean?
so one of the other things that I want to, it kind of ties into their vocals about uniqueness. But one thing that I thought was really cool was you can hear their bass guitar very clearly in a lot of the songs, which you get a lot in punk music, like traditional punk music. You can very much hear the bass lines in punk music, like very strong. So I thought that was a really cool thing to add in, which kind of tied into the voice because the vocals and like the bass and some of the riffs are very punk sounding,
Yeah.
like punk. I don't know how to say it, like built from a punk foundation, but it's very poppy. Like I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like I don't know how else to explain it, but it's very unique because it's a lot of punk aspects that they've done poppy, which I guess you could say is just pop punk, but it's not what pop punk is in 2024. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, here's the one thing about these guys. They are a three-piece, like I mentioned. Think about the other like big three-piece bands and think about their bass tones. It's the same kind of thing. So
That's a good point.
Blink 182 is huge with that,
Yeah.
right? And just so everyone knows, the bass player is actually the vocalist. So maybe that's part of
Okay.
that as well. But Blink 182 is like that. Alkaline Trio, Alkaline has a very defined bass
Yeah.
lines. Even Green Day, who's
The
another well-known three-piece who has very defined bass lines.
the band that we're going to be talking about on the next episode, very defined bass lines,
Yeah.
although they're rockabilly. So spoiler,
Yeah. But again, it's another three-piece.
but another three piece. Now these guys should play a stand up bass like Tiger Army does.
Everyone should play a stand-up bass, but yeah, I wonder if that has something to do with that. I wonder if being a three-piece, I wonder if you layer the bass in a little bit more. And we're not music producers by any means, but I wonder if you layer in that bass line a little bit more because you're missing maybe that second guitar,
Right. The rhythm
or
guitar doesn't
you're
pick up
missing,
any of that.
yeah,
So the bass does it. That's cool. That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So super solid. But we're gonna go backwards on this then. So I wish I met you sooner is 2022. It's their latest one. The opening song "Car Wreck" is very reminiscent of their older stuff. So when that first came on, I was like, okay, I'm ready for another Goalkeeper. It's full length this time. And like it, I was expecting to hear something like Life in Slow Motion. You get down to Lost in Reality, Notice Me, Truth and Frame. And this is where it's like, okay, this is heavy Blink. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And when I say heavy Blink, anyone who's listened to like Travis Barker produced pop punk recently, that's what I'm referring to. So Kenny Hoopla, if you listen to Kenny Hoopla, it sounds very reminiscent of that. Machine Gun Kelly's album, Ticket to My Downfall, sounds
Gross.
very reminiscent of that. Nine from Blink, the new Blink. That's what you should expect going to listen to this album
Yeah.
because that's how it feels. Okay, let's go to the 2020 EP. So this is Life in Slow Motion. This is my favorite EP from these guys. The first album I heard, or the first EP I heard from these guys was Bad Times Don't Last. So I must have heard these guys in 2019 because pretty quickly Life in Slow Motion came up and it came out in September of 2020. So maybe I heard them at the beginning of 2020. Maybe it's only been 3 years. But anyways, this like resonated with me so well. This one, they do just enough of different things that make it unique. Like the guitar intro on Graveyard, where it's almost like a, what is that, like 80s, 90s pop style guitar tone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was way dope. It's so sick. And then the song Happy, Happy is by far their best song. It's just a good pop punk song. It starts in very slow, more vocals, and then it goes right into it and gets faster and picks up.
Yeah. The first song, the Just Say It, reminds me of like a Bowling for Soup.
Yeah, that's a good call out.
That's kind of what a lot of it feels like, actually.
Sure. And you saying that is actually kind of interesting because I think one thing about Bowling for Soup is they have lyrics that are catchy and something that Josh has said this before, but you hear it once and you
You
can
remember
pretty
it.
much sing it.
Yeah.
That is this entire EP. It would probably take you 2 or 3 times listening to it not to be singing along with this
Or at
EP.
least like getting the chorus and you're like, yep, I get it. Like that's good.
Yes, totally agree. Totally agree. So, songs to listen to. I mean, it's 5 songs. It's 14 minutes long. Listen to the whole
Listen to the whole
thing.
thing.
Like honestly, if you want something a little bit different, listen to Graveyard. If you want something that's going to be more of like what you would expect from a pop punk song, listen to Happy. That, in my opinion, is the best song that they've put out. I truly enjoy that song. But this is my favorite EP from these guys for sure. And then I'm just going to touch on Gut Feeling. I don't even think it was on Apple for you to find. It's 3 songs. It's fine. Honestly, had I heard Gut Feeling first, I probably would not have latched on to Goalkeeper, in all honesty. It's a slower pop punk, and it's not what I'm super into. So but it's fine. It's good enough. And then Screwdriver they put out as a single, same thing. I mean, it's a 4 minute song. That's not what pop punk is. Pop punk is 3 minutes and 20 seconds max. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, but bad times don't last. So this is where I started with these guys. And I love this album. Sunshine, just right at the beginning, really, really good song. And then I think it was Left Lane is the other one. But what did you pick up from this one?
I so I think that this might be like the most unique of their albums. And so I did like it. I still think Life in Slow Motion is their best, but nothing but great things to say about this. Sunshine's a great song. The acoustic song is cool.
Lately? Yep.
Yeah. One of those, I can't remember what song it was. It might have been Chances that has like the girl that sings kind of in the.
I think it is.
Is it
It's
Chances?
Chances.
Dude,
Yep.
I'm a huge sucker for like pop punk bands that have like the duet with a girl vocalist because
Yes.
it just fits so well. And maybe it's because of his vocals, like the contrast between hers and his, it actually blended super well in that song. And it wasn't overpowering. Like
That's the
it
thing.
felt really good.
It's
Yeah.
actually kind of subtle, right? Like the first time you listen to it, you're like, oh, there's something there. But then all of a sudden you listen to it again, you're like, oh, that's a female vocalist with
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very subtle. But again, it's in the chorus part. And listen to the song 2 times and you'll know the chorus
Exactly.
lines,
Yep.
kind of thing. It's super fun. This is like, when you want to talk about a pop punk EP, this is like the definition of a pop punk EP. You got some fast songs, you have the acoustic, you have a little bit slower, you got the guest vocalist kind of thing. Like for 5 songs, it's fantastic. Again, 14 minutes long, like not a whole heck of a long time there.
Yeah.
You can get through their 2 EPs in 30 minutes. Their full length is how long? 20.
It's 11 songs, I think.
Yeah, but it's only 28 minutes
10,
long.
10 songs, 20 minutes.
So under an hour, and you can listen to their full discography,
Yeah.
which is, again, it's awesome.
And it's
right?
a good listen. It is definitely a good listen.
Yeah. So if you are listening to it, though, and you're into the Blink style sound, start with I Wish I Met You Sooner, right? Start with their full length album. They actually were just on a compilation album from Smart Punk that they just, a bunch of pop punk bands covered Blink 182 songs. They did Always. And so yeah, you can see
Yeah.
where they're
Yeah.
coming from. But if you just want to like if you want to hear their progression, start at Bad Times. I would always say though, start at Life in Slow Motion, as I think it's their best.
I
And
do
then
too.
if you want a little bit more pop punk, go Bad Times. If you want the Blink sound, go I Wish I Met You Sooner. So
Yeah.
that's how I feel.
From a tour standpoint, I don't know if they're doing much right now.
They actually are.
They are? Okay.
I've been following them a little bit. I don't think anything's announced right now, but there was some messages going around. I think about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, about them talking about coming out West Coast. So these guys are from Philly, and I don't think they've played out West yet. And they were
Cool.
trying to put some fillers out there, like, hey, if we come play West, like, where should we stop? And so I'm hoping they make it out this way. I'd love to see these guys, but I also wanted to touch on just the Philly scene in general. Like, I know how much like music is in Philly. I didn't know how much pop punk music had come out of Philly. So, a couple of bands that they had referenced as being like influences to them, there was like Major League, Man Overboard, Grayscale.
They are like a man overboard with a lower registry vocalist.
A little bit. Man Overboard gets weird.
Yeah.
They have a couple songs where they just like I have like really weird drum patterns or like very specific like rhythms that always catch me. And it's I don't even know how to describe it. Have you watched Grease before?
Yeah, of course.
So at the high school dance, it's like a do
I don't know Grease that well.
okay. Anyways,
Shoot, dude.
like there's like that drum pattern that happens, and there's a band Overboard song that has that drum pattern, and I just like every time it gets me. Like
You
I
just want to start
love
swing dancing and wearing just like white t-shirts with
yeah, like tuck him in, like
rolled up
slick back
jeans and
hair,
stuff.
like
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Put a cigarette behind the ear kind of thing. But yeah, so the Wonder Years always are claiming Philly area. But again, these guys call out as influences Blink 182, 4 Year Strong, Newfound, Sum 41, like the old names. So like when you're listening to their songs, you'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
knowing their influences, yeah, that like I get where their sound's coming from.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, go check these guys out. I think that this is the biggest band that we've done in terms of like actual listeners. Like on Spotify, they've got about 32,000 monthly listeners, which is pretty big for only one full length album. And it's actually surprising that they haven't
Gotten
like
bigger.
done a full tour yet.
Yeah.
So
They've played some like big festivals though. They played that festival down in Florida that had like everybody, like Thursday and Gorilla Biscuits and
yeah, yeah,
it's called like Florida Fest or something like that.
they're like I think they're kind of on the cusp, right? I think that if they are, we said this about Pure Bliss, I think. If someone was to pick these guys up and actually take them on like a 20 date tour, I think that they would blow up immensely.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Is they are the perfect. If you're a popular pop punk band and looking to go on tour and you're looking for a good opener, this is like the perfect band to pick.
Absolutely. Without question. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of these guys. I don't know what else to say beyond that. Like they're
Just
just
good music.
it's just good music.
Just good
That's a
music.
good way to say it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that is that. But we'll be back on Wednesday or Thursday or next week with Josh, and we're talking about someone a little bit unique this go around. It's going to be off the beaten path, and so I'm curious to see the reception.
I mean, we've kind of like alluded to it in a few ways in this episode. I mean, a Grease reference and the way they dress is not that far off from how these
That's
guys look. And
very
even
true.
partly kind of the music is very much influenced by,
Oh yeah,
swing and like blues rock type stuff. So
that's true. I did not intentionally mean to do that.
Well, guess what? The universe is connected in mysterious ways, Trevor.
And hey, I already said that those are the type of patterns that really catch my attention. So maybe that's why I've latched onto this band.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, I'm pretty pumped for it. And I don't know if Josh has really listened to these guys. So I think it'll be interesting to get his take
Yeah.
on this coming up. But next week we're gonna try to have someone on again. So that's gonna be the format that we're doing.
Stay tuned and find out.
That's the format for these episodes. Is we're gonna try to talk about bands, and then we're gonna try to have one of the bands on.
Don't
right?
spoil it. We can't give away the secret sauce, man. We just started.
Anyways, but anything else from your end?
No, I'm good.
Cool, man. Well, we'll be back early next week.
Couple days.
The next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, peace.
See ya.